The year 1863 draped America in a shroud of conflict, a nation ripped asunder by the brutal realities of civil war. Yet, amidst the clatter of muskets and the cries of the wounded, a new hum resonated across the vast landscape, the rhythmic, almost magical pulse of the telegraph. It promised connection, a bridge across the immense distances, and for some, a glimmer of hope in an otherwise bleak world. One such soul was Elias Thorne, a young man whose spirit had been deeply scarred by the war, not on the battlefield, but in the silent devastation it wrought upon his own life. Disenfranchised, adrift, and seeking an anchor, Elias found an unexpected solace in the rhythmic clicks and dashes of Morse code. It was a language without sound, a silent conversation carried on humming wires, and Elias possessed an uncanny aptitude for it. His fingers, nimble and precise, danced across the brass key, translating thoughts and emotions into a series of rapid pulses with chilling speed. The telegraph became his sanctuary, a world where the chaos of war receded, replaced by the elegant order of dots and dashes. Elias harbored a utopian vision, a dream of a world inextricably linked, where understanding would inevitably replace conflict, a silent testament to the power of connection. He saw the humming wires not just as conduits for information, but as arteries of empathy, pumping shared experiences into the heart of a fractured nation. Driven by this profound belief, Elias secured a position in a remote telegraph office, nestled in a burgeoning western town. This was a place teetering on the cusp of civilization and untamed wilderness, where dusty streets met the endless horizon. The isolation, rather than deterring him, cultivated his naturally introverted nature. He became an observer, a silent listener to the nation's pulse, a ghost in the machine, absorbing the triumphs and tragedies that crisscrossed the continent. His only true companion in this desolate outpost was the telegraph itself, its metallic voice a constant, reassuring presence in his otherwise solitary life. Its clicks and hums were the lullabies of his existence, the only voices he truly trusted. A fleeting, painful glimpse into his past revealed the profound tragedy that had shaped him. A lost family, a void that no amount of solitude could fill, a wound that festered beneath his quiet demeanor. This personal devastation fueled his relentless pursuit of connection, a desperate hope that somehow through these wires he could mend the broken pieces of his own world. He sought to understand, to prevent others from enduring the same silent suffering he had known. As days turned into weeks, the town's colorful characters began to emerge, each with their own tales, their own burdens. Elias, through the seemingly innocuous messages he transmitted, became privy to their secrets, their hopes, their fears, whispered across the wires. He heard of prospectors striking it rich, of families reuniting, of desperate pleas for aid. Yet a subtle sense of unease permeated the air, a feeling that the telegraph, while connecting, also carried the immense weight of unspoken tensions and hidden agendas. It was a double-edged sword, capable of both illumination and concealment. As dusk settled on his first full day, painting the western sky in hues of fiery orange and deep violet, Elias meticulously prepared to close the office. The last message of the day flickered onto the paper, a seemingly innocuous report of cattle prices in a distant city. Yet something about its rhythm, a barely perceptible hesitation in the dashes, left Elias with a lingering sense of foreboding. It was a whisper of discord, a discordant note in the symphony of the wires. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. Elias Thorne, ever the meticulous craftsman of communication, quickly settled into the rhythm of his new life, becoming an indispensable cog in the burgeoning town's communication lifeline. His days unfolded with a quiet precision, each tap of the key a testament to his dedication. He developed an almost legendary reputation for his unwavering accuracy, his fingers moving with an elegant certainty that few could match. More than just accuracy, however, was his almost preternatural ability to decipher even the most garbled messages, to coax meaning from static and noise, discerning the true intent behind hurried, jumbled transmissions. The metallic voice of the telegraph, once merely a comfort, now sang to him with an almost intimate familiarity. Then the town's quiet equilibrium was disturbed by the arrival of Silas Blackwood. He was a man of imposing presence, charismatic and impeccably dressed, yet an undeniable air of mystery clung to him like a second skin. Blackwood's dealings were shrouded in an intriguing ambiguity. Whispers followed him like shadows, hinting at vast, unseen enterprises. His presence, initially, brought a wave of undeniable prosperity to the town. New businesses sprang up, money flowed more freely, and the promise of a brighter future seemed to glimmer on the horizon. Yet beneath this veneer of progress, Elias detected a palpable undercurrent of fear and suspicion. It was a subtle shift in the town's collective pulse, a tension that hummed almost as audibly as his telegraph wires. Through the very instrument that was his solace, Elias began to intercept messages that hinted at a darker side to Blackwood's operations. These were not direct confessions, but rather veiled references, subtle implications, whispers of illicit dealings hidden within seemingly innocuous business communications. His fingers, accustomed to translating, now felt a prickle of unease as he transmitted these coded exchanges. He found himself caught in an uncomfortable dilemma. His duty was to transmit messages, to be a neutral conduit of information, yet his growing moral unease about their content gnawed at him. The thought of being an unwitting accomplice to something nefarious was a heavy burden, pressing down on his quiet conscience. The pivotal moment arrived one sweltering afternoon. A message clicked through, seemingly a routine financial transaction, detailing the transfer of a significant sum of money. To the untrained ear, it would have passed without a second thought. But Elias, with his finely tuned ear and years of obsessive study, detected a subtle alteration in the rhythm, a barely perceptible pause. A breath held just a fraction too long. It was a hidden code, a signature, deliberately embedded within the seemingly mundane sequence of dots and dashes. His meticulous nature, the very trait that made him so exceptional, compelled him to investigate. He felt an irresistible urge to unravel the true meaning behind those altered pulses, to understand why someone would go to such lengths to embed a secret within plain sight. He spent hours, late into the night, replaying the sequence in his mind, cross-referencing it with other seemingly unrelated messages he had transmitted. He meticulously analyzed the subtle rhythmic shifts, the peculiar phrasing, the unusual timing of certain transmissions. Slowly, painstakingly, a pattern began to emerge. A series of seemingly disparate messages, when combined and deciphered through his unique understanding of the hidden rhythm, painted a deeply disturbing picture. It was a tapestry woven with threads of betrayal, manipulation, and intricate schemes designed to exploit the very prosperity Blackwood had brought. The weight of this discovery pressed down on him with crushing force. The silent telegraph, once a source of comfort and connection, had now become a conduit for dangerous truths, its metallic voice no longer singing lullabies, but rather whispering chilling secrets. The last message he successfully decoded that night explicitly implicated Blackwood in a scheme, not just of petty crime, but one so vast and insidious that it threatened to shatter the fragile peace of the entire town, leaving it vulnerable and exposed. Elias Thorne grappled with the profound implications of his discovery, the knowledge a heavy burden that settled squarely upon his solitary shoulders. The decoded message, a stark revelation of Blackwood's machinations, echoed in his mind, its implications chillingly clear. He understood with a dawning and unsettling clarity that simply revealing the truth could very well put his own life in peril. Blackwood's influence, he now realized, stretched far beyond the dusty borders of their burgeoning western town, a web of power and corruption that seemed to have no discernible end. To challenge such a man was to challenge an unseen empire, an empire that would surely crush any who dared to stand in its way. A more insidious change began to unfold within the town, one that Elias observed with growing dismay. The local sheriff, a man previously regarded as an incorruptible figure of justice, began to show subtle, yet undeniable signs of being compromised. His once vigilant gaze seemed to soften, his inquiries into suspicious dealings grew less fervent, and a certain weariness settled into his demeanor. Elias watched, a silent observer, as Blackwood's presence subtly corrupted those around him, a slow, creeping rot that tainted everything it touched. The prosperity Blackwood had brought now felt like a gilded cage, trapping the town in a web of complicity. Driven by an acute sense of duty and a deepening resolve, Elias began to meticulously document the coded messages. He started a secret ledger, tucked away beneath loose floorboards in his office, a clandestine record of Blackwood's illicit activities. Each rhythmic click of the telegraph key, each seemingly innocuous transaction, was carefully scrutinized, its hidden meaning extracted and inscribed into his growing testament against the businessman. This ledger became his silent weapon, a meticulously crafted record that he hoped one day would bring the truth to light. Amidst this growing isolation, a fragile alliance began to form. Sarah, a local journalist, cynical yet undeniably principled, had sensed something amiss in the town's sudden surge of prosperity. Her sharp eyes and keen intellect had picked up on the discordant notes in Blackwood's symphony of success. Their initial interactions were fraught with a mutual distrust. Elias, ever reserved, found it difficult to confide, and Sarah, accustomed to skepticism, harbored her own reservations about the quiet telegrapher. However, a shared sense of justice, a burning desire to uncover the truth, slowly began to bridge the gap between them. One evening, under the cloak of deepening twilight, Elias cautiously demonstrated his decoding prowess to Sarah. He laid out the evidence, the meticulously transcribed messages, the subtle alterations in rhythm, the undeniable proof of Blackwood's treachery. As he explained the intricate patterns, Sarah's eyes widened with a mixture of shock and dawning comprehension. The journalist, armed with this explosive information, felt a renewed surge of purpose. She began her own covert investigation, digging into Blackwood's past, interviewing hesitant townspeople, piecing together the fragmented whispers and rumors. The danger, however, was ever present. One tense afternoon, Blackwood's enforcers, a hulking pair of intimidating men, unexpectedly raided the telegraph office. Their movements were swift and precise, their eyes scanning every corner, seemingly looking for something specific. Elias, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs, feigned ignorance, his hands trembling slightly as he pretended to sort wires. The enforcers ransacked the small space, overturning furniture, tearing through stacks of paper. They came perilously close to his hidden ledger, their heavy boots thudding just inches from its secret location beneath the floorboards. Elias held his breath, his muscles tensed, narrowly escaping detection. The close call served as a stark reminder of the peril he faced, solidifying his resolve to expose Blackwood before it was too late. As the dust settled from the raid and the enforcers departed, leaving behind a trail of disarray, Elias returned to his telegraph. His fingers, still slightly trembling, moved across the key, sending a routine message. But as he prepared to close for the night, a new message clicked through, its rhythm subtly different, yet strangely familiar. It was a coded warning not from Blackwood but from an unknown ally within Blackwood's sprawling network. The message was brief, cryptic, yet undeniably clear. Beware. Deeper conspiracy. The words hung in the air, a chilling harbinger of the greater dangers that lay ahead, hinting at a web of deceit far more intricate and expansive than Elias had ever imagined. The coded warning rattled Elias Thorne to his core, forcing him to confront the true scale of Blackwood's network and the immense danger he now faced. The message, brief yet potent, resonated with an ominous truth, suggesting that the layers of deceit extended far beyond the immediate confines of their western town. He knew instinctively that this was not merely a local criminal enterprise. It was something far more insidious, a sprawling web with unseen threads reaching into the distant corners of the burgeoning nation. The revelation spurred him to action, a renewed sense of urgency propelling him forward. He delved deeper into Blackwood's past, his telegraphic skills transforming into a powerful investigative tool. He spent countless hours in the quiet solitude of his office, his fingers dancing across the keys, transmitting queries to distant archives, poring over old news reports, sifting through public records that trickled back across the wires. Each click and hum of the telegraph brought fragments of information, piecing together a mosaic of Silas Blackwood's elusive history. Elias cross-referenced names, dates, and locations, his meticulous nature proving invaluable in this silent hunt for truth. Then, a shocking revelation emerged from the depths of the archived messages, a detail so profoundly personal that it sent a cold shiver down his spine. Blackwood's true identity, hidden beneath layers of aliases and carefully constructed falsehoods, was inextricably linked to Elias's own tragic past. The name, a ghost from his darkest memories, materialized on the telegraph strip, confirming a connection he never in his wildest nightmares could have suspected. The man responsible for his family's demise, a figure he had believed long gone, vanished into the annals of a painful history, was in fact Silas Blackwood. The realization hit him with the force of a physical blow, twisting his gut with a sickening combination of grief and raw fury. This personal betrayal ignited a fierce desire for justice within Elias, transforming his quiet, methodical pursuit of truth into a burning quest for vengeance. The detached observer vanished, replaced by a man consumed by a righteous anger, his every action now fueled by the memory of his lost loved ones. The rhythmic clicks of the telegraph, once a source of calm, now pulsed with the urgency of a heart beating for retribution. Simultaneously, Sarah, driven by her own journalistic instincts, independently uncovered similar damning details about Blackwood's history. Her tireless investigations into old land disputes, forgotten legal battles, and hushed-up scandals had led her to the same horrifying conclusion. When she shared her findings with Elias, their shared understanding of Blackwood's depravity solidified their bond, forging an unbreakable alliance. They realized Blackwood's current scheme was not merely about greed or immediate profit. It was a continuation of a deeply ingrained pattern of ruthlessness, exploitation, and a chilling disregard for human life that had plagued his entire existence. The present mirrored the past with terrifying precision. The telegraph office, once merely a place of work, now transformed into a clandestine hub for their investigation, a sanctuary where secrets were exchanged in hushed tones and dangerous plans were meticulously forged. The quiet hum of the wires became a backdrop to their whispered conversations, each message sent and received carrying the weight of their perilous mission. A poignant moment of shared grief and determination solidified the bond between Elias and Sarah. As they spoke of Blackwood's past atrocities, a silent understanding passed between them, a recognition of their intertwined fates. Elias saw in Sarah not just an ally, but a fellow warrior in a battle against an insidious evil that had touched both their lives. Their shared sorrow forged a powerful, unspoken pact. They realized that Blackwood's current operation, the manipulation of land claims and the systematic dispossession of vulnerable families, was not just a new venture. It was a direct echo of the tragedy that had befallen Elias's family years ago. The pain of his past now found a present-day reflection, making the fight intensely personal. This was not just about justice for the town. It was about finally confronting the specter of his own devastating loss. The part ended with a chilling direct message clicking through the telegraph. It was addressed to Elias, its tone unambiguous, its intent menacing. "I know you are probing, Thorne. Your curiosity will be your undoing. Stay silent, or face the consequences." The message, undeniably from Blackwood himself, was a clear indication that he was aware of Elias's probing, and more disturbingly that he understood the depth of Elias's knowledge. The game had just escalated, and Elias knew, with a knot of dread in his stomach, that Blackwood would stop at nothing to protect his secrets. Blackwood's direct, menacing threat, delivered with chilling precision through the very wires Elias commanded, acted as a powerful accelerant, forcing Elias and Sarah to abandon any lingering notions of subtlety. Time, they both knew, was now a rapidly dwindling commodity. Their quiet investigations, once a clandestine dance, had to transform into a furious sprint. They convened in the telegraph office, its familiar hum now a frantic pulse, devising a strategy to expose Blackwood, to turn his most potent weapon, the telegraph itself, against him. Their plan hinged on intercepting a critical message, one that would not only lay bare Blackwood's entire illicit operation but, More importantly, irrevocably link him to Elias's tragic past, providing irrefutable proof of his depravity. Meanwhile, the town, a microcosm of the larger American landscape, grew increasingly restless. Whispers of discontent, once confined to hushed conversations in darkened corners, now spread like wildfire through the dusty streets. Fear, a potent and corrosive emotion, began to erode the fragile peace Blackwood had so carefully cultivated. Sensing the tide turning, perceiving the subtle shifts in allegiance and the growing defiance in the eyes of the townsfolk, Blackwood began to tighten his grip. His tactics grew more aggressive, his enforcers more brazen, their presence a constant, intimidating shadow meant to silence any nascent dissent. The atmosphere grew heavy, pregnant with unspoken tension, a storm brewing on the horizon. Elias and Sarah found themselves navigating an increasingly perilous landscape, with close calls and near misses becoming alarmingly frequent. Shadows seemed to lengthen, every stranger a potential threat, every sound a harbinger of danger. Yet amidst this escalating peril, a glimmer of hope, an unexpected act of courage emerged. A loyal but terrified telegraph operator in Blackwood's employ, a man whose conscience had finally buckled under the weight of his complicity, secretly began to provide Elias with crucial intelligence. These coded messages, often delivered under the cloak of night or disguised within seemingly innocuous transmissions, were lifelines, risking his own life to aid their cause. This selfless act of bravery, a testament to the inherent goodness that could still exist even within the heart of overwhelming darkness, reinforced Elias's deeply held belief in humanity, strengthening his resolve. The tension within the remote telegraph office became palpable, a living entity that vibrated with every click and hum of the machine. Each pulse of electricity, every dash and dot of Morse code felt pregnant with unspoken danger, a ticking clock counting down to an inevitable confrontation. Elias, his face etched with grim determination, meticulously prepared for the final decisive confrontation. His hands, though calloused from years of tapping keys, remained steady, his resolve unwavering. The searing memory of his lost family, a wound that had never truly healed, now fueled his every action, sharpening his focus, steeling his nerves. He was no longer just a telegrapher. He was an instrument of justice, driven by a personal vendetta that intertwined with the fate of the entire town. Then, the moment arrived. The critical message, the linchpin of their entire plan, began to click through the wire. It was a detailed confession, Blackwood's own words inadvertently condemning him, outlining his vast criminal enterprise, and crucially, providing the undeniable link to Elias's past. Elias's fingers flew across the key, transcribing the words even as his heart pounded a frantic rhythm against his ribs. The struggle, however, was not merely internal. Just as the final damning words materialized on the paper strip, the office door burst open. Blackwood's enforcers, their faces contorted with rage, stormed in, their heavy boots thudding against the wooden floorboards, signaling the desperate, violent struggle that had just begun. Elias had intercepted the crucial message, but the fight for justice was far from over. The intercepted message, a torrent of damning evidence unfurled before Elias's eyes, each coded character a nail in Silas Blackwood's coffin. It was a bombshell, a meticulously detailed confession of Blackwood's vast criminal enterprise, outlining his schemes, his illicit gains, and the horrifying methods he employed to achieve them. Elias and Sarah, their faces illuminated by the dim lantern light, worked feverishly, their movements precise and economical, to prepare the message for public dissemination. They understood its immense power, knowing its impact would be seismic, shattering the carefully constructed facade of respectability Blackwood had maintained. Their strategy was bold, audacious even: transmit the entire message to every major telegraph office in the region. This wasn't merely about exposing Blackwood to the local populace. It was about ensuring his downfall was absolute, his crimes broadcast across the vast expanse of the burgeoning nation. The act of sending such a lengthy and incriminating dispatch was a race against time, a desperate gambit. Blackwood's enforcers, their heavy footsteps already echoing ominously from the street outside, were closing in on the remote telegraph office, their intent clear and menacing. A tense standoff ensued, the air thick with apprehension. Elias, his brow furrowed in concentration, sat hunched over the telegraph key, his fingers flying across the brass, transmitting the crucial message with a speed born of desperation and years of practice. Each click, each dash and dot, carried the weight of justice, a beacon of truth fighting against the encroaching darkness. Meanwhile, Sarah, her jaw set with grim determination, defended the office from the advancing thugs. She had barricaded the door with whatever heavy furniture she could manage, her body a defiant shield against the relentless assault. The clicks of the telegraph, a steady, rhythmic pulse of hope, were punctuated by the jarring sounds of struggle, the splintering of wood as the door groaned under repeated blows, the muffled shouts of Blackwood's men, and Sarah's own grunts of exertion. Despite the chaos erupting around him, Elias maintained an almost superhuman focus. His world narrowed to the rhythmic dance of his fingers across the key, the metallic symphony of the telegraph, and the urgent need to complete his task. He was a man possessed, driven by the memory of his family, by the injustices Blackwood had wrought, and by the sheer, unyielding will to see truth prevail. He ignored the creaking of the door, the shouts, the crashing sounds, his mind singularly fixed on the message, on delivering every single incriminating word. Just as the final word of the message, a damning confirmation of Blackwood's ultimate culpability, clicked through the wire, the barricaded door finally gave way with a resounding crash. Silas Blackwood himself burst into the office, his eyes blazing with a murderous rage that twisted his usually composed features into a mask of pure fury. He was no longer the charismatic businessman. He was a cornered beast, dangerous and unpredictable. He confronted Elias directly, striding across the splintered floorboards, his gaze locking with Elias's. In that charged moment, time seemed to stretch, a chasm opening between them. A lifetime of pain and injustice, of secret grievances and unpunished crimes hung heavy in the air, palpable and suffocating. Blackwood's face was contorted, a grotesque caricature of his former self, his eyes pools of boiling hatred. "You fool!" Blackwood roared, his voice thick with venom. "You think you can stop me?" He lunged towards the telegraph equipment, his intent clear: to destroy the very machine that had just sealed his fate, to silence the truth before it could fully take root. But Elias, fueled by a surge of adrenaline and an unyielding protectiveness for his sanctuary, swiftly intercepted him. He would not allow Blackwood to desecrate the instrument that had given him purpose, that had become his voice in a world that sought to silence him. The message was successfully transmitted, a silent cry for justice echoing across the wires. But Elias was left vulnerable, face to face with his tormentor, the final confrontation now unavoidable. The battle for the town, for justice, and for Elias's own redemption had truly begun. A brutal struggle erupted between Elias and Blackwood, a primal clash fueled by years of pent-up anger and a burning thirst for revenge. Blackwood, a man of formidable size and strength, lunged with the ferocity of a cornered animal, his fists flying. Elias, though physically outmatched, moved with an agile desperation, dodging blows, his eyes scanning the cluttered office for any advantage. Sarah, her arm bleeding from a splintered shard of wood, scrambled to her feet, grabbing a heavy brass paperweight. With a defiant cry, she hurled it, striking Blackwood squarely on the shoulder. The impact, though not debilitating, caused him to stumble, providing Elias with a momentary distraction. Elias, quick-witted and intimately familiar with every inch of his sanctuary, used his knowledge of the telegraph office to his advantage. He ducked beneath Blackwood's flailing arm, weaving between the desks and equipment. He saw a tangle of thick telegraph wires discarded from a previous repair, lying coiled near the wall. With a desperate lunge, he snatched them, twisting the heavy copper strands into a makeshift whip. As Blackwood recovered from Sarah's assault and advanced again, Elias swung the wires, catching his tormentor across the legs. Blackwood roared in frustration, momentarily entangled. The fight was not merely physical, it was a symbolic battle, a raw, visceral confrontation between the silent truth Elias had so diligently uncovered and the insidious lies that Blackwood had woven for so long. Each blow, each parry, resonated with the weight of their intertwined pasts, the memory of Elias's lost family a phantom presence in the chaotic room. Elias maneuvered Blackwood towards the main telegraph apparatus, the very heart of his operation. He knew the machine was sturdy, bolted to the floor and surrounded by exposed wires and heavy metallic parts. It was a dangerous arena, but one Elias understood implicitly. Just as Blackwood, finally freeing himself from the wires, gained a terrifying upper hand, his powerful hands closing around Elias's throat, the sound of heavy boots thundering up the stairs echoed through the office. The sound was a symphony to Elias's ears, a beacon of hope in his fading consciousness. The door, now a gaping wound in the wall, was suddenly filled with the imposing figure of the sheriff, his revolver drawn and aimed. Behind him, several deputies, their faces grim, followed suit. "Silas Blackwood, you're under arrest," the sheriff's voice boomed, cutting through the frenzied air. The timing was perfect, a direct culmination of Sarah's frantic telegraphic alert and their meticulous planning. Blackwood, caught completely off guard, his grip on Elias loosening in shock, was swiftly overwhelmed. The deputies moved with practiced efficiency, disarming and restraining him. The reign of terror he had imposed upon the town, the insidious web of deceit he had spun, was finally brought to an end. His power, once seemingly absolute, was stripped away in a matter of seconds. Elias, gasping for breath, pushed himself away from the behemoth of a man, collapsing against the damaged telegraph table. Exhausted but triumphant, he looked around the wreckage of his office. Wires hung loose, furniture was overturned, and the air was thick with the scent of dust and spent adrenaline. Yet amidst the destruction, the silence that now settled over the room was a welcome comfort, a profound peace after the storm. Outside, the townspeople, having received the shocking news transmitted by Elias, began to gather. Their faces, illuminated by the flickering gas lamps, were a mixture of profound relief and stunned disbelief. Whispers turned into murmurs, then into a collective sigh of liberation. Elias, slowly pushing himself upright, his body aching but his spirit soaring, walked towards the central telegraph apparatus. His fingers, still trembling slightly, traced the cold metal of the key. It was damaged, bruised, but still intact. He looked at the instrument, a symbol of both his arduous struggle and his ultimate, hard-won victory. The silent telegrapher had spoken, and the world had listened. In the immediate aftermath, a profound quiet descended upon the town, a stark contrast to the recent turmoil. The shadows of Silas Blackwood's pervasive influence slowly began to recede, replaced by a tentative yet palpable sense of hope. Elias Thorne, though hailed as an unlikely hero, found no grand satisfaction in public accolades. Instead, he chose to remain in his quiet role as the telegrapher, the rhythmic clicks and hums of the apparatus offering a unique solace that no amount of praise could replicate. His connection to the telegraph deepened, evolving beyond a mere profession into a profound extension of his very being. It was an anchor in the chaotic sea of his past, a steady pulse in a world that had once felt so fractured. Sarah, the intrepid journalist, having meticulously published her sprawling exposé detailing Blackwood's intricate web of corruption and his connection to Elias's tragic past, achieved widespread recognition. Her articles, printed in newspapers far and wide, sparked broader investigations into similar injustices across the burgeoning nation. Her words became a catalyst, shining a harsh light on the dark corners where greed and power conspired against the vulnerable. The town itself experienced a period of genuine prosperity and peace, a testament to the fact that justice, when pursued with unwavering resolve, could indeed lay the foundation for a better future. The community, once prey to Blackwood's machinations, now thrived on the bedrock of truth and shared purpose. Elias, in his quiet corner, found a unique form of redemption. It was not the fiery, violent revenge he might have once envisioned in his darkest moments, but a deeper, more enduring vindication. His redemption lay in the quiet power of his unwavering commitment to truth, in the silent act of listening and transmitting the unfiltered pulse of the world. He continued to listen to the whispers carried along the wires, the distant echoes of human experience, now with a renewed sense of hope and an undeniable purpose. The telegraph, once a tool of his solitary existence, had become a conduit for connection, a symbol of the enduring human spirit. A new generation of aspiring telegraph operators, drawn by the tales of his quiet heroism, began to look up to Elias. They were inspired by his silent strength, his unwavering integrity, and the powerful story of how a seemingly unassuming man had brought down a titan of corruption. They saw in him not just a skilled technician, but a guardian of truth, a silent sentinel against the forces of injustice. Elias, in turn, found a quiet satisfaction in mentoring them, passing on not just the intricacies of Morse code, but the profound responsibility that came with wielding such a powerful tool of communication. The final scene found Elias Thorne, years later, his hair streaked with silver, his hands still steady and precise as they danced across the telegraph key. The office, though still remote, hummed with a different kind of energy now, one of growth and connection. He sent a message, not of impending doom or urgent warning, but a simple, profound message of hope and connection, stretching across the vast, ever-expanding landscape of America. It was a message that spoke of unity, of understanding, and of the shared human experience, carried on the invisible currents of the telegraph wires. The silent telegrapher, once a solitary figure haunted by a personal tragedy, had transcended his past. He had become more than just a man who operated a machine. He had become a symbol of integrity, a quiet testament to the enduring power of truth in a world constantly battling against deception. His legacy was not etched in stone, but carried on the invisible waves of communication, a constant reminder that even the quietest voices could resonate with the loudest impact. The video concluded with the enduring hum of the telegraph wires, a timeless, silent testament to the unwavering spirit of one man who dared to listen, dared to speak, and ultimately, dared to connect. His story, woven into the very fabric of the nation's communication, would forever echo through the vast expanse of time.